How do they get it from the podcast? What happened if you hit the yellow thing? Back some. Make sure we got hair cover. It's still gonna be in the Zoom, huh? The light. Did you just start on that one? Nope. See, he can edit the that. So when we start this, we start. Good evening, beautiful people. It's Sharia Thomas here, your consultant to an ultimately unique experience. And I am just trying to fix this camera just a little bit to get our angle right. I want to welcome you today to Love and Poetry. And this is about we've only started about a few of these episodes, so we're still new and you have not missed out on much if this is the first time, because this is our first live. And I'm here with my guest and friend and colleague, Dr. Angelic Muhammad. Hello, hello, hello. Uh-oh, it looks like we're having a technical difficulty. And we are having a technical difficulty. Good evening, beautiful people. So we are going to... It's Sharia Thomas here. Change this up for a minute. I think we have to put live. Looks like we're having a little issue with our IG. So we are going to continue with here on Facebook. And you all can catch us when it's all nice and edited later. So again, I'm here with Dr. Angelic Muhammad, and we are discussing increasing awareness of sexual assault, because it's Sexual Assault Awareness Month here. And Angelic, Dr. Muhammad actually is skilled and an expertise when it comes to trauma, and many do experience trauma when it comes to sexual assault. I want to give a disclaimer, because this is a very sensitive topic, and being able to discuss this, some may be triggered. And so I want to disclaim that some sensitive audiences may want to take breaks as we discuss this topic, and it may not be for all. So this is for a mature audience. So welcome, Dr. Muhammad. Thank you. I'm not going to call you Dr. Muhammad. I'm just going to call her Dr. Angelic, okay? We're going to keep it real. You know how I do it here. But her name is Dr. Angelic Muhammad. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Well, it's so hard to tell about myself. I've been in the field for quite some time. Yeah. I said, what, 15 years? 16, 17 years, something like that. And like you said, my specialty is trauma, communications, and relationships. Mm-hmm. When I first started out, I thought I was just going to be a psychologist and someone was just going to sit on my chair and I was going to get paid and it was going to be all good. I didn't think about going into the in-depth, like what do you want to specialize in? Okay. That wasn't something that I thought about. It was just like, everybody come talk to me because people do that anyway. So I'm going to get paid for it. So the specialization came in after being raped. Mm-hmm. But even though I was sexually assaulted and raped when I was younger, but I never thought about that. So that's when the specialty came in for me, to be able to help people who have experienced that. And on the other side, I have a son. Yeah. So I'm a mom. I'm a mom before anything. And I love to travel, do retreats. Yes.
and learn about different cultures, different people, different aspects of life, and be able to teach other people. So that's just me in a big old nutshell. I have a lot of different parts, but we'll get to a lot of that as we go.
We will get to those parts. As you know, this podcast is called Love and Poetry. And one thing that she did not say that is one of her many talents is spoken word as well. And so you will get a taste of that as well. And if you hold on to the end, you will experience the full version. But she's just going to give you a taste in between so you can really see, you know, her skills when it comes to just being such a diverse person.
Right, and I gotta actually grab that because
No
remembering that. But yeah, I do write. Mm-hmm. I've written books. I'm writing another book, and I write music, well, songs. That's what you're gonna hear at the end. So I do a lot.
Yes, you do. You definitely do. So, Angelic, when it comes, Dr. Angelic, I will give you your title. Dr. Angelic, when it comes to sexual assault, tell us a little bit about what's the difference between sexual assault and sexual violence.
So, when we look at somebody assaulting somebody, that's what you got to really look at. Violating my space. It could be touching me inappropriately. You know, because you're assaulting me of who I am and what. I don't want you touching me. Yeah. Basically.
Right.
You know, I don't want you saying vile things to me that are inappropriate. So that's more of that assault, taking assault or action upon somebody else that they do not want.
Yes. And, you know, kind of moving into that when you say, I don't want you touching me, the sense of consent.
Correct.
Is that can be really blurred, but it doesn't need to be. And especially with intimate partners, intimate relationships, and the sense of consent and how that impacts sexual assault, sexual violence, rape. Can you tell us a little bit more of that kind of blurred line when it comes to an intimate relationship and that experience of being violated, basically?
So you know what? So, you know, it's funny and not funny that I'll give a recent personal encounter.
Okay.
So I was visiting a friend, and I've known him for some time, and he wanted to be with me. I didn't want to be with him. And I kept telling him no, but he kept trying to touch me. And I felt myself go into that repressive mode.
Okay.
To where mentally I was trying to keep myself safe. And I feel like I had that mode because I have been raped before. So when he called himself trying to touch me, I've automatically visually seen the father of my child. He didn't know that, but I knew that. And so I'm repressed. So I'm just not really, I'm saying no. I don't want to have sex with you. I don't want you to touch me. I don't want this. I don't want that. Eventually left me alone. But the whole thing was, that's assault.
Yeah.
That's assault. And so, of course, I had nothing to do with that person, not talk to that person. But it's like, you have to listen to somebody when they say no. Because you cross the line when you don't. And just because a person is not physically fighting you or hitting you, you never know where that person is mentally. Yeah. You never know where that person is emotionally. And so my thought is, why is it important for you to try to take control over me? What is wrong with you that you feel that you need to control me? Or when I say no, or when I say I don't want this, or this is not what I want, why do you feel you have the right to take over my body? Now, if I'm saying yeah, and well, okay, you know, that's that blurred line. That could be a blurred line. Okay. But the thing is, when you're saying no, I don't want this, and then so what in your head, is it because you're not physically punching me in the eye where I still feel like you do? No, listen to what the person is saying. Listen to what their body is saying. Their body's saying no. They're physically saying no. Leave it alone. Let it go. Walk away, because now you're stepping in. Now you're stepping into assault. Almost stepping into rape. To that sexual violence.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for making that clear. If you're just chiming in, this is Love and Poetry, and we thank you for joining us. And I'm here with my guest, Dr. Angelic Muhammad. And she is a psychologist.
International psychologist.
And her specialty is trauma. And with trauma, many experience trauma from sexual assault. This is a very sensitive topic, and I will continue to repeat this throughout this podcast because many may be triggered, and I want those to be aware of it so that if at any time you may need to step away, understand that we are giving this disclaimer for a reason. And we understand that this is a very sensitive topic, but when it comes to bringing awareness, we want to talk about things that might be even considered taboo, things that we may not naturally always gravitate to have the conversation, but we need to have the conversation. And what Dr. Angelic has discussed with us is consent, and the sense of consent in terms of even the intimate partner. And I would go even a little bit deeper of intimate partner in terms of even marriage, and knowing that there is consent of saying no, even when we're married. And oftentimes in a marriage, if we look at even some religious beliefs, some may think that it's okay because of a sense of that bond, that there is no, that submission is supposed to be there. But we are telling you as professionals that no means no in whatever relationship it is. And that is a violation of your rights. Yes.
And I'm glad you mentioned marriage. And let's say boyfriend, girlfriend marriage, because you have these teenage relationships and any intimate relationship. Sometimes it's in an individual's head that because we are in a relationship, use the word submissive, this is what's supposed to go on. Yes, in an intimate relationship, you have sex. It's normal. In an intimate relationship, you have sexual intimacy. It's normal. But sometimes, let's just take a scenario. Let's say we had a fight. And I don't want to have sex with you after that.
Yes.
Some people like makeup sex. Some people don't. I don't want to have sex with you after we fought. That may be my thing.
Yeah.
But you decided upon yourself to take it for yourself because that's what you wanted to do. That's a problem. Whether you male or female, whoever's the dominant person in that situation. Now, we talk about females all the time because it's always been known that females get raped or females get assaulted. It happens to males as well. We don't want to ignore the fact that it does happen to males, but we see it happen more often to females. So we don't want to pretend like, it doesn't happen, but that it doesn't happen to males as well, because it does. But regardless, no means no. And that's something that I feel like we need to be louder about.
Yes.
Just like we had to become loud about AIDS and HIV and cancer, we have to be loud about sexual assault in order to decrease the amount of sexual assault and rape cases that we have here in the United States and throughout our world. We need to become louder about it. We need to talk about it.
Yes.
Let's think about it. When you were young, I know when I was young, we didn't talk about rape in the house. We didn't talk about sexual assault. It wasn't a topic of discussion.
Right. Or even sex overall.
We didn't talk about sex. And the sex talk was don't do it. Same one in my house. So I love you, mommy and daddy, but that's what I got. That's it. But you gotta think about it. That's what they were taught.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't do it, you stay, you know, and then that whole notion of what happened in this house stays in this house.
Yes.
Or that whole notion of just keep your legs closed and you'll be okay. If he touched you or did something to you or something you did, what was you wearing? What did you say? You know, those types of things. Right. You know, now my parents never said that part, but that was the notion before. So now I'm saying we need to talk about it. Yes. We need to have these discussions. I know as a mom, and I have a son, I talked to him about it. I said, look, if someone ever touches you inappropriately, and I mean sexual, somebody ever touch you and they say, well, we're going to kill your mama. I said, tell them, okay, you're not going to tell. But when you come home, you tell me. We need to have these types of conversations with our children. And we do not have them. We think they're too young to hear this stuff. They're not. They see it on TV. They hear it in music. They listen to it. You can ride down a billboard. You see naked people on the billboard or whatever. I swear Netflix is like a soft porn channel. You know, so they hear it all the time. So they need to know appropriate. And I'll give you a story. It was a little girl. She kept telling her teacher that her uncle was touching her cookie. Kept licking her cookie. And so she thought she was licking her cookies. Yes. And she's like, why is the uncle licking her cookies? But she didn't realize that the parents had told her her vagina was her cookie. So all the time this little girl is getting raped, nobody understands because her parents didn't teach her that she has a vagina. Teach your children what they have. Yes. Don't tell your child he got a little bing bing, he got a little this, that. He has a penis. She has a vagina. She has breasts. That's important. So if somebody does come and try to violate your child, they know how to express. So-and-so was licking my vagina. Now we know what's going on and we have a chance to stop it. Very good. We have to have these conversations. We do. It's not, in my opinion, a hard conversation, but it's a true conversation. And that's the thing. Most definitely.
And it's a very true one that we do need to have, as Dr. Angelic Muhammad says. And it can be hard for some because some don't know the language and the comfort level isn't there. And that's when it comes to being able to communicate with a professional if need be. And knowing that there are even hotlines out there available. Just looking up sexual assault hotline and seeking the help needed. And confidentiality, staying anonymous is available. Tell us a little bit as it relates to, like you said, the little girl and saying, you know, her uncle's been touching her cookie. What would you suggest to a parent or even someone who thinks they may have been sexually assaulted? What would they need to tell someone if they wanted to get help?
Basically the truth. There's no sugarcoating. There's no going around it. The truth. And we need to listen and not try to cover up for those who have done it because you don't want to be embarrassed. That's another thing. Or so really honestly the truth. And just like that little girl was saying, and she was telling the truth, but she was telling it in the way that she knew how to tell it. Yes. And moving forward with it. Because Uncle Johnny, I don't know that's his name, but he didn't just wake up just doing that. He done did that before. He may have done it as a child to somebody else. So Uncle Johnny need help too. But we first need to concentrate on that little girl who was getting assaulted. So the whole thing is, and you said a word, you said uncomfortable. Being uncomfortable having these conversations. And that's the purpose of getting loud about it. Yes. That's the purpose of speaking up about it now. To be able to talk about it today. And so once we start doing that, because people would talk about it and start discussing it, that way it doesn't feel uncomfortable anymore. Yes. Just like I said with AIDS and HIV and cancer and those types of things. We had to get the conversation going. We had to make it an everyday conversation, an unfortunate everyday conversation. We had to make it an everyday conversation, and that's the thing we're not doing. Mm-hmm. We hear it, we still brushing it up under the rug.
Yes, right.
We still blaming the victim who has been raped or assaulted. And we're not looking at the actual perpetrator who's actually doing these things. So now you have a culture. Yes, they have now the Me Too movement. I believe that is getting blurred or have been blurred because it's been mixed up with a whole bunch of other stuff. And from my opinion, some of the direction has been kind of blurred. The thing is, let's speak up about it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the situation. Let's have these conversations, because the fact that we don't have these conversations, they will continue to be uncomfortable, and we will have more women and men being sexually assaulted and eventually, unfortunately, raped.
There we go. Yeah.
So that's the problem.
Most definitely. We definitely want to have a conversation, and that's why we're holding the conversation here on Love and Poetry. And because when love is not love and it's not there, we want to talk about the situations that come up, which can be sexual assault, which can be sexual violence, rape. And I have Dr. Angelic Muhammad here, expert international psychologist. I want to get that right. She earned it, y'all. And her specialty is in trauma. One thing that I see Sean, I'm just going to give a shout out, Sean Garvey, co-host of the show. He actually took a break today, a day off, in his day off, he is a worker. So he's working on other projects for today. And hey, Sean, we're glad that you chimed in for today. As we talk about this subject, when it comes to, I guess, as it relates to just opening the conversation as young, like you said, there's no age when it comes to being able to really start to introduce your child. Even for myself, I know with my own boys, it was about bad touch, good touch. And that can be as young as when they start to say mommy, daddy, so that they start to relate and understand it. What would you say just in terms of getting where a parent may be uncomfortable in that space and being able to communicate to their child? Would you have any advice of how to broach that conversation?
I think exactly what you said, bad touch, good touch. I believe the majority, I can't say everybody, majority of people can be somewhat comfortable with bad touch, good touch, because it's normal. You know, what's a bad touch? What's a good touch? Right. Explaining that, talking to them, because unfortunately, you do get a lot of children under the age of 5 being touched inappropriately. And so because of that, and then some people, well, they don't understand. Yes, they do. You see these 2-year-olds can sing a song and remember a dance and do all this other stuff. They understand what bad touch, good touch means. They understand. So if we stop minimizing what we think they don't understand, then we'll have a better handle on it. Yes. Because if you teach them, right? Because you have some 2-year-olds talking, right?
Right, exactly.
So if you can understand speech and you can talk, you can understand bad touch, good touch. When you tell them don't put their hand on that stove, they understand bad touch, good touch. You understand? Right. So that, and then we have to be cognizant of who we have our children around. Having your girls or your children sitting on anybody's lap. You know, starting with different stuff. That's not appropriate. Don't have your child sitting on everybody's lap. Don't have your child up in everybody's face. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, yes.
Don't have your child over everybody's house.
Yes. Yep. And you bring up a very good point, because when it comes to, and I'll just say, you know, in my profession, I'm a licensed mental health counselor, and life coach, I'm big on boundaries. And
boundaries.
you know, what we're talking about here is setting boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
And from one generation to the next, if we never learned it in our first generation, it's pivotal. It's really important mm-hmm. that we understand. That's what we talk about. You know, what's allowed, what's not allowed, mm-hmm. and having that is essential when it comes to definitely helping to bring that conversation in awareness at a very young age is what I hear you saying.
You know what, I want to bring up something, and correct me if I'm saying it wrong. Okay. But Cardi B, mm-hmm. right? If you know Cardi B, you know her music is explicit, mm-hmm. right? I don't really listen to Cardi B, but one thing I seen on Facebook, people were getting on her because she said her 2-year-old is not allowed to listen to her music. Mm-hmm. And
interesting.
But it's not. But she said, my music is for adults. What's your mm-hmm. problem? Mm-hmm. Why would you have your child listening to my music? Because her music, she popping it and twerking it and doing all types of stuff.
Right.
But she said, my child, she got enough sense to say, my child is not listening to my music.
Yes.
I'm not allowing that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what a lot of our other parents need to recognize. Stop allowing your children to listen to all this crazy stuff. At 2, mm-hmm. at 3,
7,
at 4.
What we're talking about.
They understand what they're saying.
Yes.
So if they're understanding that and they listening to a bunch of stuff that's inappropriate, especially age mm-hmm. inappropriate, what are they teaching themselves in their brain? That this is okay. Mm-hmm. So we're allowing our children to accept mm-hmm. sexual assault before they even experience sexual assault. So we're allowing them to see it on TV. Mm-hmm. We're allowing it to be okay in their music. Mm-hmm. We're allowing it to see it in their video games mm-hmm. before they even experience it. So they have already mentally accepted that sexual assault and rape is okay. You feed yourself more than just putting food in your mouth. You feed yourself by what you listen to. You feed yourself by what you see.
Yeah.
You feed yourself by what you eat. You even mm-hmm. feed yourself from the social environment that you're in. So if you already predisposed yourself or your child to this type of foolishness to say that it's okay, mm-hmm. and we jumping around laughing and thinking it's cool, when it actually happens, the conversation is dead. Mm-hmm. So if the conversation is already dead because I already mentally accepted it, even though I didn't like how it felt, that's where you have your biggest problem.
Yes, that's the root. And you know, that's what Dr. Angelic is telling us right now is, again, when we say that boundary, what's acceptable, that's mm-hmm. the root of it. If we are just allowing it, our generation to the next or generations before us, passing it down, it has to stop somewhere, and that's the start of it.
We have to start because we have done this. We just put everybody in one little thing. Mm-hmm. I remember when I was young, my mom and them had their stuff, and we had our stuff. Mm-hmm. Now we all together on TikTok with the same stuff. You see what I'm saying?
Yes. Boundaries. Boundaries.
We have created mess, and it's unfortunate because our children are the ones suffering and oversaturated emotionally and do not know where to put it. And if you notice, suicides is going up. Yeah. You know, and you do have more sexual assault happening, mm-hmm. but you still have the same quiet time that you've been having a long time ago about it.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's the problem.
That's the problem.
Why are we not talking about it? You know, people get mad. I'm sorry, I'm not going to hear something, but people get mad for a minute mm-hmm. about music. People get mad for a minute about people doing stuff. Yeah. But getting mad with no action means nothing. It's dead. What are we doing besides getting mad? Mm-hmm. Are we talking about it? Are we trying to raise awareness about it? Not just in a month.
Right.
Sexual assault don't happen in 1 month. It happens all year round. Yes. It happens every day.
Right.
We need to be more conscious about our conversations. And I can't say that enough. We need to be able to talk about it.
Yes.
We need to have discussions about these things. We have to bring our children, our parents, or whomever to the table and say, this is what it is.
Yeah.
If you experience this, I want you to feel comfortable enough to come talk to me.
Right.
I want you to feel vulnerable enough, and I mean that, vulnerable enough to be able to express yourself to me in this way so we can get you to help, so we can do these types of things. And make sure you're honest in your conversation. Because we don't want to hurt nobody. Just saying stuff to hurt somebody. That's not appropriate at all. We want to be honest in our conversation to be able to get people real help. Because this stuff leads to PTSD. And PTSD is real. It doesn't just happen to superstars, because you hear about it with superstars. It doesn't just happen to our veterans. It does happen to our veterans, but it doesn't just happen. It happens to everyday people, and PTSD is real. And when you have been sexually violated and you have been sexually assaulted, 9 times out of 10, you will have PTSD in reference to that sexual assault. Like I said, your body will go into repression. I was just teaching today. I had a class today before I came here, and I was teaching the teenagers. I said, your cells have memory.
Oh, yeah.
So regardless, you don't forget anything because your cells remember. Because if you get put back in that same type of situation, you may not remember it verbatim, but your cells remember, and your body will have a reaction. And in that reaction, it may feel familiar. You may not remember, but that's a part of your body makeup. So just think about that. If you go and you smell a smell and you're like, oh, dang, I remember that smell. Where does that smell come from? Or you go in a familiar area, oh, I remember that area. What happened in this time frame? So if you go back to, and you see Johnny or Uncle Johnny, I'm still back at Uncle Johnny, you're going to remember that. Even if you try to suppress those feelings of what happened and what occurred. And it will affect you mentally, emotionally, sexually, physically. It will affect you in relationships. It will affect you. It can affect you at work. Some people become promiscuous, and you say, how you been sexually assaulted or raped and you promiscuous now? Because they're trying to find control. Some people become perfectionists because they think because they lost a part of them, they lost power. So now they be trying to perfect everything, which leads them to be a people pleaser. Some people, and this is not the whole community, because I ain't never talked to the whole community now. Some people turn gay to protect themselves.
Wow.
I have talked to clients that have said, I was, and I don't believe this is why she turned gay, but I know she said something about her being touched. Ellen DeGeneres talked about being touched as a child. Like I said, I don't recall the whole conversation. She said then she turned, gay or whatever, but clients that I know of have said, I don't want to be with a man. I'd rather be with a woman because they were nicer to me, because I remember being raped by men.
Right.
Trying to gain power back.
Yes.
So mental health things come out of sexual trauma.
Yes.
A lot of things.
You have brought up some very good points. And again, everyone, we thank you for chiming in today. This is Love and Poetry with myself, Sharia Thomas, and our guest, Dr. Angelic Muhammad, who is an international psychologist. And we are raising awareness. We're opening the conversation. And that's what we do here on Love and Poetry. Talk about sex, love, relationships, things that we may not always open up the conversation with, that we may not, again, feel comfortable at times, but it needs to be discussed. It needs to be talked about. And that's what we're here to do, is we raise awareness on sexual assault, and in Sexual Assault Month. April is the month of sexual assault awareness, and this is the 20th year. And Dr. Angelic Muhammad has been bringing some very informative information to us, and we hope that you continue to listen. I will say this, and I have been saying it and will continue throughout this hour, is that this is a sensitive topic. So again, some may be triggered. This is for a mature audience. And if at any time, please understand, step away if necessary, if need be, but we do need to have these conversations. So breathe through it. We are both healthcare professionals ourselves. Again, I'm a licensed mental health therapist and life coach. And so we understand. I want to just give us some statistics and before we move into an area and discuss a bit about trauma, a bit that Dr. Angelic Muhammad had brought up in terms of PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder after a trauma, is acute stress that one may experience. That's what post-traumatic stress is. And that can be experienced by anyone. But as she was discussing in terms of someone experiencing sexual assault, it just came to mind in terms of, yes, it could be so traumatic that one does not want to live anymore. And suicide is a very another sensitive topic, but needs to be talked about, needs to be said. And just in us saying it, it helps to raise that level of awareness. And it is the second leading cause of death that many don't know as young as age 18. And we need to be aware of that and talk about it, because if it's not discussed, then it can lead to this, because people feel alone and feel as if they don't have the means to be able to discuss it because of the shame, because of the guilt. So the blame.
More people blame themselves than we think, and that's why people don't speak up. That's one of the reasons why people don't speak, because it's like, what did I do wrong? In order for this to occur.
Right.
So let's think about that child. I'm gonna say child first.
Okay.
That's carrying all that weight of someone who has sexually assaulted them, and they don't know what to do. They don't know where to put that emotion. They don't know where to put that energy. What do they do?
What do they do?
And that's the big question. Because if no one ever talked to them or had these discussions with them or made them feel comfortable enough to have that conversation, they'd be angry. Anger is number one. So you just see your child acting out, not doing well in school, cutting themselves, ready on the verge of wanting to commit suicide because they can't escape the pain of the sexual trauma that occurred or that's continuing to occur. Because some people they don't just get they don't get assaulted just that one time. It can go on. And so remember when I said your cells have memories? So you start to attract these type of people because inside your system or your soul is considered to be weak or have been weakened. So now you're attracting that same type of demon to you because you haven't settled it with inside of yourself in order to attract something different. So you say, why I keep attracting this same man? Why I keep attracting the same female? Because you haven't worked on what's already set inside of yourself to attract to you. So it may not be that you want them or that you need them, but your body haven't healed in order to attract something different. So you got to look at it. And I tell people, I say, you don't have a mental body over here. You don't have a physical body over here, an emotional body over here, a spiritual. It's all together. You are one person. That's why holistic type treatment is important. So we can look at the whole self to be able to work with the whole body. Because if I'm just talking to you about your mental and I'm not working on every aspect of your body, you're still vulnerable to this type of energy. I'm gonna just say energy. This type of energy, this type of person, this type of situation. So we have to look at all those different aspects of that person and how it really affects that person's human self, their overall being. So it's important for us to, I keep saying it. Don't get tired of me saying it. Talk about it. Talk about it.
Talk about it.
It does not matter if you don't think that your child is something wrong with your child. It does not matter if you don't think that you don't have that happening in your family, or you never know who they may run into. It may not even happen as a child. I hope it never happened to anybody. I don't want anybody to be sexually assaulted, or anybody to be raped, or anybody to have that. But unfortunately, it happens. It can happen in college. It can happen, like we talked about marriage. It can happen as a child. It can happen at any time. Hopefully, like I said, it never happens.
Yes.
But unfortunately, it happens to people. And so because it happens, we have to be able to already pre-instill tools to be able for somebody to help themselves, or be able to talk about it with somebody else so they can get help. And that's what's important. And I know you wanted some statistics. The statistics is leaving my head right now.
It's okay.
When it comes, I'm gonna be on it.
No
I'm gonna be on it.
No worries.
But
I believe it's a 1 in 7 of people that are actually sexually assaulted. And so that's in a range in terms of just statistic wise, and just with that, knowing that prevalence of 1 out of a whole 7. We're not talking about 100, 7 people. So many people that don't speak on it because of that stigma, because of that shame, the blaming themselves, and so holding that in, that suppression of it. So we thank you for that information, Dr. Muhammad.
And then you know what? And then you have, especially when you're in a marriage or a really intimate relationship, nobody's going to believe me. Because they know we're married. They know we've been in a relationship. Who's going to believe me?
Yeah.
Then two, you're conflicted because I actually love this person.
Right.
But they did this to me. So I don't even believe it myself. And so if it is a family member and it's not an intimate relationship, you don't want to believe it because you don't want to mess up the family. You don't want to believe it because, again, you love this person. You don't want to believe it because it doesn't just happen out of the blue most of the time. It starts with the mental. Right. So it's a training process a lot of times. Sometimes they start to train you to believe a certain thing and to get close to them and start creating this world where it's just you and them. So it's a training process. Yes. So within that training process, then it's a touching process. And then that touching process begins to be, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about me? Then making you feel guilty about things. Then we go from there. Then it can become more in depth to where then it starts to be a rape. See, you got to think too, oral sex is rape too. Don't just think because it was orally and they didn't penetrate, it's not rape. That's still a violation of somebody's rights.
Right.
It's still a sexual act.
Yes.
That's rape too.
Right. Very good. Yes. So again, we're here with Dr. Muhammad, and she really is breaking things down in regards to first understanding sexual assault, and even knowing what sexual assault is, and sometimes understanding the sense of, consent. I want those of our audience to know that you can reach out. There are many ways that you can actually watch this platform, and you can check us out at Podcast FM. We're located at beatbreakradiofm.com, and just click on the Podcast FM app, and you can check us out on that app. We are streaming on Spotify, iHeart. I made up one. Forgive me on that. iHeart and Google Play. And we want you to join the conversation. We will continue these type of conversations that are not always comfortable. We talk about the positives of love, getting over your ex and breakups, and the healing process, and making love. We're even going to have topics on sex and your health, but we need to also have these topics when it comes to the ones that are stigmatized, and sexual assault is a big one. And so that's why we're discussing it today. I want us to switch gears and move into a direction of, again, love and poetry. And so with poetry, we also do spoken word, poems. And so Dr. Angelic Muhammad is I'll say a flowetist. Is that what we can say? A flowetist. And she is actually premiering her song, her spoken word, and it is in song form. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I'd like for her to tell a little bit about it and just give a teaser if she's going to be actually giving us a piece here, a cappella. And at the end, if you hold tight, we will actually be airing it, the full version as well.
So first I wrote the poem.
Okay.
I wrote the poem when I was in college, after being raped. And the name of the poem is called What Gives You the Right? And in that poem, it is a back and forth because it's somewhat of a confusion, because it's like, it's what gives you the right to touch me?
Yes.
What gives you the right to put your hands on my private parts? This is mine. I only get one set, and then it goes into the point of, wait a minute, was it me? Did I do something? Wow. I thought you loved me. Is this how you express love? And those are the thoughts that people go through. Yes. Because you don't want this, you don't want the feeling, but you don't want that attack. You don't want to feel like a victim, as people say. I'm not a victim. Yes, I'm a victim. Right. It took me forever to say I was raped. I would never say I was raped. I would always say I was sexually assaulted. I would never say I was raped, because that was too victim-y. Just like not like sexual assault, but rape was too victim-y. I totally understand. So it was like, you know, I was touched. I just didn't feel good. But when you in that moment, it's like, why do you even feel like you have the right to put your hands on me? Who are you? Right. This is my body. I only get one body. So why do you feel like you have the right to touch me without asking? If you say you love me, then that's not love. Yeah. You know, I asked in that poem, like, do you even value your creator? Because if you value your creator, you wouldn't feel like you have the right to touch me because I'm from God. There's no way you can value him and don't value me because I'm his child. Beautiful. So that becomes a problem. Yes. So I'm asking about values. I'm asking about what's your right. I'm asking about love. I'm confused. Because from my understanding, we had something. Yeah. From my understanding, you loved me and I loved you. So why would you violate me? Why would you want to intentionally hurt me? And continue to try and do it? And do it. And that was the poem. And I wrote that a long time ago, like forever ago. And one time I was in bed and I don't know, I wake up in the middle of the night Latin right.
I think that's creative types. The nighttime, that's when it hits.
And it was a song.
Inspired.
I don't know, it was called Crying Out. Okay. And so I was just writing about, I am crying out. Can you hear me? And it was more so like I'm crying out to myself. So it wasn't that I was crying out to somebody else. I was crying out to myself. As if I'm sitting in front of a mirror looking at myself saying, I'm crying out. Can you hear me? I'm crying out. And And I just said, I lost my mind, and I can't believe I have lost so much time. I'm crying out. And I'm asking myself, can I hear myself? Am I ready to live? Am I ready to be happy? Am I ready to deal with what's going on inside of me? I'm crying out to be better than who I am. I'm crying out to be better than that rape. I'm crying out to be better than that assault. I'm crying out against the cousin who raped me first. I'm crying out against the god sister who sexually assaulted me. I'm crying out against the father of my child who raped me. So with all that pressure, with all that pain, with all that inner suffering, I want to hear myself because I lost my voice and all that.
I'm crying out.
And so then I put that with the poem and created the whole song.
Beautiful.
To reach out to people. To say, you are better than this. And I love me. Know that you love yourself. Not just the way you look. Not just the makeup you have on. Not just the outfit that you put on or your hair. Love yourself naked. Love yourself inside. And the outside will shine. So that's what the song is about. That's what I came up with.
And it is so soul touching. When I listened to it, I had to hold back tears, literally, because I felt it. And, I'll disclose myself. I am a thriver, I will say, of sexual assault, rape with an intimate partner. And so I hold this dear to my heart in terms of that process of, when you say crying out, trying to understand and make sense of this experience. And how could someone who says that they love you would violate you in that way? And so I commend you and I thank you in being able to use your creative genius, I would say. I give my girl her props now. and tie it in terms of song and poem. And so it's a beautiful piece. And we are thankful that you decided to premiere it with us here on Love and Poetry. We have a few more minutes, and you bring up the part of saying, getting to that place of loving yourself. And so if we look on the other side in terms of someone being sexually assaulted, what would you recommend would be a process in terms of the self-care and returning and healing back to that place of self-love?
Okay, so I actually created 2 programs. One is 4 steps to resolving emotional conflict as it relates to trauma and abuse. And the other one is 4 steps to resolving emotional conflict as it relates to the emotion of love. So getting there is, for one, going to get you some real help.
Yes.
Going to get you a professional therapist and someone that really looks at trauma. Trauma therapist, I would say.
Yes.
Because there's so much impacted that needs to be unpacked in order to mentally and emotionally live again. And so the thing I say with doing that, of course, going to get some help, recognizing your emotions. We are a people, and I mean in general, not just Black people, white people, Asian, whatever. We are a people who avoid emotions. Because we don't want to deal with it, because emotional pain is a pain that you can't see. Like you can see physical pain. If I hit myself on the arm and bruise, I have a bruise because I got hit. If somebody cussed me out and I'm bruised on the inside, can't nobody see that, but I can feel it. And so I always tell people, you have to relinquish the emotional waste that's inside of you. Because if you don't, it's just like being constipated. If you don't go to the bathroom and make a bowel movement, you will have headaches, you'll have stomach aches, you can mess up your bowels, your kidney, all that stuff will fail, right? The same with emotional waste. If you don't get it out, it will mess up your bowel. It'll cause you stress. You will have pain. It can cause cancer.
Is what it's called.
You can have cancer from it. You can have all headaches, stomach aches. It can break down your kidneys and liver in all the same way. It's just emotional pain.
Yes.
And so with that, we have to relinquish that emotional pain, just like you have to take a bowel movement. You do it a little bit at a time every day. One thing about emotional pain that's different than taking a bowel movement, eventually it can cease to desist. That doesn't mean you're not going to get hurt again, but at least this time you'll have the coping skills and you have tools in your toolbox and to know how to deal with it, because you went and got the professional help that you needed to in order to relinquish that pain. So that's how I look at it, because we get so bottled up with it and we get prideful. We allow our pride to take over. We try to suppress our emotions, and we are mentally and emotionally sick. So what do we do with that mental and emotional sickness and illness? We become mentally weak. So that creates drama. That creates more pain. That creates the energy of negativity. It creates a downfall, maybe within ourselves and possibly within those that follow us. Because we're going to shoot that to them. And in our mind, we think that we're protecting ourselves when we're really emotionally weakening in our body. Getting rid of that emotional pain.
And so being able to seek professional help for it.
Seek professional help.
Yes. You know, as you, like you said, you have two programs that someone who may have experienced some type of trauma, even a sexual assault, other types of trauma exist other than being sexually assaulted. Tell us how we can find you. How would someone be able to contact you professionally?
Well, you can contact me. You can go to my website, Angelic Global. That's ANGELIC Global GLOBLE.org. And you can find me on there. I do retreats. I actually have a wellness retreat coming up for adults. And next year we're going to Bali. You're doing a wellness retreat. I have a teen retreat coming up the end of this year. And I'm doing an informational about it next Sunday. So if you want to know more about that, you can catch me on my Instagram or Facebook under my name, Angelic, ANGELIC, and my last name, Muhammad, MUHAMMAD, and shoot me a message, and I can give you all the information there about any informationals or retreats or things that I do, and also do groups and individuals. I do a lot of life coaching more so, and then I work with Sharia a lot of times to do some client stuff, but that's how you can get me on Instagram. You can go to my website as well, and you can get me on Facebook. And I'm always willing to help. I love helping people.
She really is. She is a helper, a mother of moms, I would say. I love her, and I thank you, Dr. Angelic Muhammad, for joining us here on Love and Poetry. Again, we will be closing out with her piece, her song and spoken word. That is a great semblance of the experience of someone who has experienced sexual trauma, sexual assault. Reach out to us. Please visit our website at beatbreakradiofm.com for the Love and Poetry show. A podcast, that is a show we're showing you in terms of really opening up these conversations and you can download the Podcast FM app. You can reach out to me also at shariathomas.com. I am on Facebook, IG, Twitter. I am Sharia Thomas, your consultant to an ultimately unique experience, because I aim to help others to live a life of health, well-being, happiness, and peace. Healthier, happier, and more peaceful life. And we hope that we have helped you to at least open up this conversation, bring it to awareness, and be willing to have these sensitive topics that we talk about, and knowing that it helps to let go and release and break through that stigma that has been placed on sexuality in ways that can be on the negative spectrum, that is in emotional pain, to even sex. And we hope that you tune into the next podcast episode as we discuss more about sexual health, sex, and even a tribute to our mothers. So thank you again, Dr. Angelic Muhammad.
Thank you.
And we hope that you tune in to the next one. Take care.
Take care. Okay, how do you hear the music?
He's gonna put it at the end.
Oh.
Good evening, beautiful people. Sharia Thomas here. Your consultant to an ultimately unique experience.
Me neither. Me neither. That's so funny. I'll be like, ugh.
I know, right?
That sounds terrible.
Okay. We'll post this uncut. That's what I'm doing. Well, thank you, ma'am. You have to come back again.
You know what we need to talk about?
What's that?
And I heard it in my soul, but I said
It is
this.
a disclaimer. Because when this is a very sensitive topic.
Oh, that's what I said. I said, this is not the time for that.
What's that?
The strong black woman.
Yeah.
The weak black woman. That's what it be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that topic?
We need to talk about that.
Because
I wrote a poem about that too.
Okay. Just tribute. I mean, just premiere all your poetry.
Well, with that one, I'm actually my niece is going to draw. And it's gonna have the black woman, but it's gonna show her depicted with makeup and eyelashes and all this other side. And then the other side of her is just gonna be her normal side.
Okay.
And then the poem is gonna explain the rest of it, how you cover up all your pain. And you call yourself the strong black woman, but you're not speaking about yourself. You're not talking to anybody, holding it in. That's more that emotional waste, which is not creating strength.
Right.
It's creating weakness. So we got to look at strength in a different way.
Yeah.
You know. So.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Yeah, of course I have you back on. We gotta get the lighting though. Who is this? I'm sure it'll be better on the Zoom. So once that's done, you gotta stop the recording.